Welcome to The Most Mindset, where you'll hear real conversations about mindset, mortgages, and mastery for loan officers and originators who have outgrown being undervalued and underpaid. Here's your host, Michael Most.
Welcome back to the next episode with Aaron Tennison on The Most Mindset, where we try our best to find people that feel undervalued and underappreciated and show them our appreciation and their true value. So I am pleased and honored to have the first guy that joined me on this mission of the broker platform is Aaron Tennison. You are numero uno, the first guy to trust me and follow me. Welcome aboard, brother, to the podcast. So glad to have you.
Yeah, I was the first guy. Yeah, the pioneer, not the guinea pig.
Well, hopefully we're exceeding all expectations, as they would say.
Oh yeah.
So really glad to have you. And the main purpose of this, just wanted to hang out with you a little bit, get to know you, the crowd to know you the way I know you, and really just hear a little bit about your background, a little about the industry and some of your thoughts, and let your personality shine. So if you could, let's go back to the very, very beginning, right? Before even mortgage. You're born, you're raised, you decide you're going to go to college. Where do you decide, do you want to go to college? I know you served for a little bit. Like, what was the dream for Aaron Tennison as a kid? And then how did that all evolve into eventually hit mortgage? But really take me back to almost your adolescence.
I didn't even know what mortgage was. I was born in Alaska, and then I moved just about every year to a new state up and down the West Coast, all the way up through my senior years. You learn to either hide in a corner or just talk to everybody. So I talked to everybody. It was fun. It was also cool being the new guy every year at school, at least with the chicks. And you learn as you move how to talk to, everybody. Talk about meeting every walk of life. I lived in Alaska, Montana, Utah, Arizona, Washington State, California. Now I've been here since 88. But honestly, I wanted to be an underwater archaeologist as a kid.
Wow.
I think that's because I watched too much Indiana Jones. I did a little research, not Google, that didn't exist, but realized that it was mostly paperwork and the pay really sucked. So I didn't go that route.
Got it. And then walk me. So where'd you go to? Did you go to school? Did you serve? What'd you do?
Yeah, I went, actually, we had moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I thought we'd moved to hell because I'd never seen heat or a palm tree. I lived in the Northwest mostly. And then I went to St. George, Utah that summer just for a job. And then my folks called and said, "Hey, we're moving back to Washington State." I'm like, "We're not." So I spent the first half of my senior year, had my own apartment, my motorcycle, my friends, and in St. George, Utah.
You're in high school.
Yeah, beginning of my senior year, I had my own place and doing my own thing. Joined the Navy and decided I'd spend the last half of my senior year in Washington State because I knew I was leaving after that. So I graduated up in Everett, Washington, went to Orlando, Florida for boot camp, Meridian, Mississippi for A school. Unfortunately, I graduated top of my class. You're supposed to pick your billet, meaning you have three choices of where you want to be stationed. And I had picked La Maddalena, Italy. It was a little naval air station island right off the coast. I'm like, cool. Then they decided, because I graduated top of my class, they wanted me to commission a brand new ship in Terminal Island, Long Beach. Yeah.
Long Beach, California?
Oh, yeah, that's how I got here. So it went from La Maddalena, Italy to Terminal Island, which is, federal prison and a shipyard.
That's so interesting. But now just to connect the dots here for myself and anyone listening, you moved around as a kid because you were...
No, my dad was in construction. Yeah, he was in construction. So we just went wherever construction was.
Got it. So walk me through, you're a senior in high school, quite mature for your age, living on your own, fending for yourself. Give me a little bit about what convinces you, or what's the story to you joining the Navy, and then probably to today, besides for the general discipline and stuff, how much has the Navy been such a part of your success in your business? Like, how much has that molded you and your personality?
Honestly, I contribute that to my mom. We didn't grow up with money. It was every year was, before you moved, you had a garage sale. And when you moved to the new place, you went to a garage sale and you got new used stuff. By the time we were 8th grade, if you wanted the new fashion, whatever clothes were, you worked, you got a job. So I probably started working when I was 6, shovel snow, lawns, wash cars, whatever the heck I had to do to make a buck. In fact, I was having a discussion with my 13-year-old this morning. He's 7th grade, and some little kid goes around with his backpack and he brings snacks and he sells them obviously for a profit. Well, I told him back in probably 5th and 6th grade, I could buy a pack of Hubba Bubba, the bubble gum.
Sure.
A 5-pack for 25 cents. Well, I would go to school and sell them for 25 cents or more each. So I always made, $1 profit on everything. But I've always worked. I picked raspberries. I picked blueberries. My sophomore year, I had my own little construction crew, I guess. I'd go around, find yards that needed, work or post holes dug, and I'd bid the job, grab my friends and say, I'll pay you X. They do the work and everybody got paid. So I've always been entrepreneurial. I was never meant to do the 9 to 5 at a bank or sit behind a desk.
So walk me back through to the Navy for a second, if we could. So the Navy, like what makes you decide to join the Navy? And what would you say the greatest skill you got from the Navy that you still apply to today?
Actually, just a buddy joined. I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. I wasn't ready to go to college. And so my goal was, all right, fine. Hey, I'll do my 4 years, get my GI Bill, which was insanely low, back in 1988. And then I'll go to school. So I joined, did my 4, didn't go to college, ended up having a kid. So kind of ixnayed that. And from the military, discipline, which for me, again, like boot camp, Navy boot camp is not like the Marines by any means. Marines is like hardcore, beat the heck out of you. Navy's more no sleep, mental, fold all your stuff, every little thing, very OCD, which for me, I was already in great shape. So running 5 miles, who cared? And I was already OCD. So it was great.
It was a perfect blend.
It was great. Yeah, I excelled. But yeah, I mean,
how do you apply that? Obviously, we all need discipline and we all have a little bit of OCD. Are there times in this business where you find that, like, wow, that part of my personality got me through this challenge? Is there a story, a scenario where like you run into, whether on a daily basis or once in a while, and you're like, all right, well, I know how to handle that because of my OCD or my discipline?
yeah, I'd say the uncertainty and the stress that comes with our industry.
Tell me more.
Oh, this industry is not for the weak. Yeah. Honestly, you got to be, I think, a little unhinged, but because it's a very stressful business. You're commission only. You're dealing with borrowers, agents, escrow. You're dealing with a lot of different people. And so for me, the discipline comes in being able to deal with that stress and not keep it and move on to the next thing.
Give me an example, even just from this week or in the last few days where you've dealt with something like that, like the last high intense, like give us something that like you've recently worked on or had that level of stress where someone was freaking out and how you handled it.
Oh, well, I had in fact, we closed it, I don't know, a month ago. One of my agents referred me a client for hard money, private money, because he'd already been to, I don't know, 2 or 3 other lenders. They told him, oh, hey, we can't help you. We can't do FHA. We can't do anything. Well, he sends me his stuff and I'm like, hey, just apply online. Long story short, we ended up closing FHA. So he didn't do a 11% hard money deal. I got him in a 6%. He had a 503 credit score, got all the cash out. So he was super happy, but it wasn't a cakewalk. If he had taken that loan, well, he did. He took it to 3 other people. They looked at it and just said, no, that's where I'm different. I think out here. Well, you can't see my hands, but out there. Whereas most people in life and loans think right here. If it's not in there, they can't do it. So that's where I excel. So I took his loan and again, it wasn't fun, pieced it together. The lender wasn't fun every step of the way. They wanted something new or something different. So it was very stressful along the clouds. And it got to a point and it's like, oh my God, why am I doing this? And, but you know what, ultimately, it really saved this guy. His parents died in Nigeria, wife passed away. I mean, he had just been through. And so to be able to get it done, get him the money he needed, and he's thanking God at the end. It was great, but it was stressful.
Yeah. Do you get called God a lot?
Oh, no, he was thanking God, not me.
Yeah, no, the joke being he should have been thanking you and God together, right?
Well, he thanked God for me.
There you go. There you go. So tell me a little bit more about the how you got into the business. Everyone always has like a weird, funny story. Like for me, as an Orthodox Jew, like I went to a synagogue on a Friday night and I met someone who said his sister-in-law wants to hire someone in a closing department for a mortgage company. And I said, "You lost me a closing department and mortgage company. I don't know what either one of those are. I'm going to law school." And they're like, "Yeah, just take the interview, take the interview." And it was exciting, but nerve wracking because I knew I was going to get a job and they told you how much they'll pay. But I literally remember going in day one being like, I have no idea what I'm doing here or where I am, even like where's up, where's down, or anything. So what was that like for you? Who introduced you to mortgage? How'd you fall into this or how did you find this?
Purely by accident. I got out of the military, again, high school diploma. I went to work at LA Fitness. This is 90, would have been the summer of 92. The scenery was great. That was like the year of the one piece thong, but the pay it was garbage. And so I was reading a newspaper, back in the day when you read newspapers in the classifieds, and I saw something for what was it? It was like a doc drawer, loan document drawer. You're typing loan documents. I had no idea. It was for a company called California Mortgage Service. Yeah, I had no idea anything about a mortgage company. But it paid $1,400 a month, which was more, than what I was making. So I'm all right, cool. So interviewed, got the job. I mean, it was a no-brainer. You literally on a typewriter typed, legal descriptions on your deeds of trust and stuff like that. But it sucked because the county wouldn't record. Like if you went backspace and did that little auto correct the tape or whatever it was, you had to start all over again. Well, like I said, it was monkey work. So I'm like, hey, I need to get promoted. This is way beneath me. Well, they wouldn't do it. And I also typed broker checks. And I was typing, broker checks for 8, 10, 12 grand. And I'm looking at my paycheck going, I'm doing something wrong. So they wouldn't promote me. So I pretty much lied my butt off and became a funder. So I got into funding, doubled my salary, went from 14 to whatever, almost 3 grand a month in like 93. Back with a company called General American. Some of those guys like Cameras and all that, they all started like first team and they did all that. So I stayed in funding until 98. I had some odd jobs in between. I've done foreclosures. I've held held the trustee sales in Los Angeles, Ventura. And then I went to work for, First Union, which became Wachovia, which around 2002 became a Wells Fargo tax write-off. I didn't like my manager. And again, the funding, it was going nowhere. So I was going to quit. And my managers, Mike and Al, said, hey, why don't you become a wholesale rep?
What year was this?
90, I think.
You become an account executive, wholesale rep.
Yep.
That's when I was first getting in the business. So I can more than understand where you were at that time. And how did that go? That transition out of ops into now you're working on a commission.
I loved it because I wasn't stuck behind a desk. I live in the Inland Empire, and back in the late 90s, they had no one in the Inland Empire. So I lived in Huntington Beach. So I was coming all the way out here to, Riverside and Temecula and, all this. And I was closing a lot of loans, but my Orange County counterparts were making 5 times what I made because my average loan amount was like 80 grand, 60 grand. But it's funny that a lot of the business I got back then, all they had was Loan Prospector. They had Freddie Mac. That was the only automated system they had. So around 99, Fannie Mae came out with DU or DO. I think it was DU back then. And so I would go into all these offices and then go, hey, give me all your LP turndowns. I've run them through DU. There's your approval. Send me the loan. There you go. Send me the loan. So I learned DU the day it came out, for, what is that, 26 years ago. And then
how'd you transition from there? You're an account executive. And then when did you leave that and become like your own originator?
Wachovia pulled out of California, at least their office. And so I had a broker in Riverside, Danielle. It's real cool. And I'm like, you know what? I can see the ship sinking. And I know all these retail guys. I'm, hey, I'm gonna go retail. I already had my license. I got my real estate license back in 97. So 2002, I jumped into retail. 2003, made my first 100 grand. I'd never made that.
What did that feel like? Because you said before you were making $1,400 a week or a month on a paycheck. And then you were making $8,000 a month. Like, wow, did that feel? How liberating was that?
Even as a wholesaler, I don't know, 5 to 7, it just depended. And I cleaned out a broom closet, had a tiny little desk and a shelf with one betta fish in a fish tank. And I always tell everybody I made the most money in my career out of that broom closet. No debt, zero overhead. I was making, a couple $100,000, you know, again, with nothing. Later in life, I made a lot more, but I had a lot more overhead. I had a business and employees. So really, I made more money sitting in that little tiny desk all by myself. So that's how I got into it in 2002. Met my ex-wife in 98. And then in 2003, we bought her broker's company, took over that brokerage. Yeah. So technically 2005, because that's when I got my broker's license. And then from there, we opened our own shop, went big. Oh, wait, the economy went small. Freaking wiped us out.
Your biggest point, how many people were working under you?
Not enough. That was the issue. I had never started a business like that before. We opened this, it's like that Field of Dreams, I think it's called, with Kevin Costner, Build It and They Will Come. We built that and no one came. Yeah. A few ding dongs showed up, but mostly we did 7,000 square foot office, and it was just me and my wife at that time bringing in all the business. So complete backwards business model, 2 people working, tons of overhead, and a lot you don't need, but hey, I learned.
That's a good segue, because I always mention that, and I want to ask you what your favorite book that's had the biggest influence on you throughout your career. But before you answer that, I'll tell you that for me, my rabbi gave me the best advice ever, and he made me read E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And Michael Gerber talks about an E-Myth. He breaks down 3 different personality types. He breaks down the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician, right? So the reason I bring that up is because so many times we're really good technicians. And for me, I was a really good technician. I got in similar to you in 99. And by 2001, 2002, I was crushing it, because I got in post closing. So I knew underwriting, processing. When I went to sales in 2001, the market was there for the taking, and I knew exactly the back end of how to get a deal done. But I was doing so much business that I was approached similarly to you to like go own or buy my own shop. And I remember reading that book from Michael Gerber and being like, no, because he uses a great example in there. There was a baker who's like working at the Waldorf Astoria, getting paid $200,000 a year, and then goes and opens his own bake shop, and he dies. Like, his business dies, I'm saying. Why? Because the truth be told is, just because you are a great chef as a technician for the Waldorf Astoria does not mean you know how to own a bakery. You know how to run employees. You know how to run stock in terms of like inventory, your stock, and all that other stuff, right? Being a business owner is very different than being a really good technician. And I think it saved me from some pitfalls like that. But it seems like you had a similar kind of experience in your life, where you kind of went from an amazing technician to like, hey, let me try to be the entrepreneur, the owner of something. But the truth is, it came back down to just you and your ex-wife sitting and slugging out those loans, which is what you're really good at doing, right?
Yeah, I shouldn't have listened to a few people.
Right?
Love makes you do stupid things, because all said, I didn't want to go that route. Even when I was making 7 figures, I was still the $8 haircut guy and drove a used Dodge Ram. That's just who I am. But others, wanted the. So thinking back, if I had gone with my own gut, the market crashed, I would have gone to the high desert and bought 100 houses, at $60,000 a pop. But hindsight.
Correct. Well, that book that I just mentioned was a big influence for me. But segueing into your favorite book, your biggest impression book, for anyone that's listening, what's your go-to that you would recommend to someone that had the largest effect on your life?
I actually listen to a lot of books. I don't read a lot of books.
Right?
There's blanked on it. It's Miguel, oh my gosh, I'd have to look it up. It's the four agreements.
4 Agreements?
Yeah, I think it's by Miguel Ruiz. It's more about life, really nothing. Well, I guess you can apply it to anything, business and all that. And there's another book I'd read, I can't think of the name, but similar to what you mentioned, where they have different archetypes. You have the technician, you have this one has like king, warrior, and the other, but similar. But no, the Four Agreements, if you haven't ever read it or listened to
I
it,
have not. Tell me about it.
it's just Four Agreements just to live by. Be true to your word. Don't assume. There's two more, but it's a good thing to live by in life, in business, in anything. And I've probably listened to it 4 or 5 times. And anyone I talk to, like, if you haven't listened to this or read it, it's a good read. And I could tell you, I just have to look it up. But
It's okay. That would be the book that had the biggest influence on you.
yeah, probably later in my life, because I really didn't do a lot of reading before. I kind of just made everything up as I went. So my life has been one giant trial and error. That's why I tell people I don't have a college degree, but I have a PhD in life, because
I
I
love
do.
that. I love that. That's a great line. I have a PhD in life.
True.
When you talk about strategies or value, right? So you and I have known each other for a couple of years now.
Hmm?
And we talk all the time. And, we do our Monday calls that you so graciously come on and join us from time to time. You are someone that has very long-standing relationships with a lot of your realtors and referral partners, and they've become your close friends where you spend time with them, birthday parties and other things. What is the method to your madness, if anything, right? So you're a very disciplined guy, very OCD, like you said, but there is a part of your personality that, as you mentioned, doesn't hide in a corner and definitely likes to get out there and talk to people. What's your secret sauce that you would advise to someone getting in the business or trying to build on their business? How you built and maintain a lot of the relationships you have?
Me in the beginning, I did, and it worked with anyone and everyone, and you have to, uh, because you got to build business. Uh, and then later in my career, I learned, one, how to balance things. Like I'm the guy that, hey, if you call me or text me at my son's basketball game, I'll let you know. I'm at my son's basketball game. I'll call you back in 2 hours. But make sure you call him back. That's the biggest thing people don't do. And I do it, and people are amazed. It's something so simple. But in the last uh, 10 years, it's been about working with people I like and like me. Again, I'm not very good at pretending. If I don't like you, I'm not going to be rude. I'll be cordial, but we'll never be buddies. We're never going to hang out. And I have some of those relationships too, but a lot of my agents are my actual friends. They like me, I like them, like Travis and Lori. I've been to Thanksgiving with them. We'll go to church together, or, just do different things together. I know their kids, their birthday parties, things like that. And do I have some agents that I don't? Yeah. We get along, but still we like each other, but we don't go hang out. So as a secret sauce, it is really, find people that like-minded people that you can work well with, and they'll stick with you. Obviously, as long as you do your job. You start screwing with the paycheck, well, doesn't matter how much they like you, they're going to go find somebody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. And like I said, I think out here, if you want to be successful, you have to.
That's really well said. So I know that you're really close with your son, as you mentioned before. 7 years old, go to all his games. You spend a lot of time with him. As many times I call you and he's in the car and I almost feel bad. I'm like, call me back later, because I know that's your quality time with him. But if your son were to turn to you and ask you the following question, I'm curious how you'd answer it. If he would turn to you one day and be like, Dad, like, what are you most proud of in all your 25 plus years, 30 years in this business and your career that you built in mortgages? What would you say you're most proud of that you would share with your son?
That have always been successful enough to take care of them. I mean, there's always bad years. I've looked back at my bad years and go, okay, I'm 56 now. Going, okay, I'm 56.
You look 46. So that's what's important.
Thanks. It's the camera. 56, high school diploma. Even in a bad year, you make six figures. Where else are you going to do that?
Where else would life give you that opportunity? It's
No.
really, really a great lesson, which is a good segue into, we're now on a broker platform. And as you've given me the story, and you worked at some places at Wachovia's and banks and different parts of the job, a lot of brokering. But right now you're on a full-on broker platform, the one that we have built here. Would you say this is the happiest you've been in terms of product programs? What do you love about it? Why do you think other people would appreciate or want to join it? Tell me where you're at, because we all had nice runs. To your point, you got in the 90s, it was a little rough. Early 2000s till 2008 was a great run. We then hit quite the valley. of 2009 until 2012, 13. And then those were like dog years, like really dogging it out from 13 to 18. And then we had the COVID years, which were really good to us. But we've been through another valley. Post 2022 has been tough, right? Again, it's just peaks and valleys. And that's a lot of our business. The high times are great and the low times are really low. And for someone that's been doing this as long as you and I have, it shows your grit, your tenacity that you've stuck with it. Right. But what do you love most about where you're at today and why it's working for you?
I love my freedom, but you mean as far as the broker platform? Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been with multiple retail shops, guaranteed rate, all over the place. I've had my own branch of like PRMG, again, retail, I own my own brokerage shop. I was my own broker, a little one-man show. The reason I went this route is when I left PRMG, I didn't want to go back to the retail. One, I didn't want a W-2. Two, the rates, there were so many fingers in that pie or that spread, that margin, that I couldn't compete. It didn't allow it. It was forcing me to think in here because I didn't have all these other options. Like I just got a text this morning from one of my agents. Hey, can you do a bridge loan? Well, if I was anywhere else, no. Now I have an appointment at 120 with the rep to do a bridge loan. I was going to go back to being a one-man show. And then it was Go Rascal. Then you called and I'm like, well, that works. Flat fee. They take care of my compliance. They do all that good stuff. And then we moved to UAM, United American, and total difference. The way it's ran, you have your own freedom to do whatever you want. And I'm still my own one-man show, but I've got, the compliance and the backing of a company that's been around as long as I've been doing this. You've got lenders all the way from A-Paper to IQM to fix and flip to private money. I mean, there's nothing you can't do that you don't have access to. And what's nice too is, again, I'm kind of a one-man show, but I get the big boy perks, like with PennyMac or UWM. We get those perks as a whole. Whereas if I stuck with just being myself, I wouldn't get all those, volume perks that I have access to. So no, this is probably the best platform I've ever worked on, including my own, because it's ran a lot better.
Right?
But Al definitely knows what he's doing.
Correct. That's awesome. Before we wrap this up, is there any funny incident, story, or something that you've done in the course of the 25 years that you would share with us that was entertaining or humorous in any sort of way?
I've got some weird ones, but
go ahead. You can give us one or two. We're good. So people can get to know a little bit more of your personality. Just give me something that was fun, one or two different stories.
Back in 93, first off, I bought my first brand new car ever in my life. It was a 93 Toyota Tacoma, dark blue, stick shift, manual windows, and no air conditioning in Southern California.
Wow.
That's all I could afford. So I was doing foreclosures at that point because the early 90s, the mortgage industry was kind of but the foreclosure market was booming. And so I was going around posting notices and holding the trustee sales in Ventura and I think Orange. But anyways, I was covering Lancaster, north of where you're at and all of that. So I'd show up in my tie and then I'd hit the parking lot around the corner and put on a t-shirt and shorts because there's no way I was driving through Lancaster with no air conditioning in July in a suit.
Yeah.
But so one of the funny things is, I don't know if you've ever been to a trustee sale, but they pay cash. I mean, not literally, they don't hand you cash, cashier's checks, things like that. Cool. I was probably 24, I guess, probably around 24, in Orange. And this guy, won the bid. I forget, it was something for $1 million. And it was multiple properties, I think. And he endorsed this $1 million cashier's check over to me. So, 1993, I'm 24 going, there's $1 million, but I got a kid. I can't run. So I gave it to my boss and stuff. So that was my first $1 million.
Holding that check, that first $1 million check.
With my name on it. There was another one that I was actually doing a little bit of real estate on the, I had my broker's license. And again, this is probably late 90s, maybe. I was out here in Fontana and taking this young couple. I was young too. I was like 30 years old through this home. This is before everything crashed and people were stealing all the copper and everything else, but I just didn't like going to people's homes, so I'd bang on that door, ring the doorbell. No one answered. I open the door, I yell. Nothing. So we go upstairs, we look around, and I'm leading the way and I walk into The kitchen's to the left. There's just an opening. Kitchen, living room, very dark. And I look over and I see someone sleeping on the couch. Hey, guys, everybody out. Well, they loved the house. So we had an offer written up, and agent calls me, and before all the tech and stuff we have now, hey, did you view blah, blah, blah? I'm like, yeah, we got an offer we're putting together. He's like, was anyone home? I'm like, yeah, there was a gentleman sleeping on the couch. He's like, well, we're taking the house off the market because he wasn't sleeping. He was dead.
Oh my.
I had to call this couple and go, we can't buy that house. Because remember that guy? He was dead. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, it's like, oh my gosh.
That's a great story, Aaron. Wow. Wow, that's a shocker for you.
Yeah, it was a trip. I'm like, all right.
Exactly. Something you mentioned earlier, which is, I'm curious because it clicked in my brain. Like, I remember my first moment when I went into sales and I cashed my biggest check, my first big check. And I remember, so at this time, I'm living in New York City and I lived in Brooklyn, but I worked in New York City. I'll never forget this day. I left that day with my paycheck and I walked right down to Madison Avenue in New York City and I bought my first Xenia suit and I felt like $1 billion. I was like, I made it. You know what I mean? Like I have a check in my hands and I bought an expensive, nice suit. I'm not going to lie. I think I had that suit for over 10 plus years. I couldn't let it go. I had it all the way through my marriage, almost like that blanket you grow up with, right? Just couldn't let it go because it meant so much to me that time where you like have your first check, you do something for you, right? Do you have any memory of what that was for you? Like your first crazy purchase or like, wow, I appreciate this business and I appreciate the opportunity of the money I could make here.
What did I do? 2002. Not really. I just went down. I just remember taking my checks and then I always go to the bank and cash them. Not that I didn't trust the broker. I'm just like, hey, you know what? One, they put a hold on it. But two, I'm just like, this is a lot of money. Some were 10, 12, 22 grand because some of them would be saved up, multiple checks. I'm like, no, I don't want this to bounce. I'd go right to her bank. I would cash every damn check, get my cash, and then I'd go to my bank, put it into my bank. So I just remember having, I could have 50 grand in my hand going, cool. At least from one bank to the other. Nah, I never really ran out and bought any of that. Again, I've never been a suit guy or the fancy. I think the fanciest thing, and I didn't even buy it, was probably 98, was my Breitling watch. And Denise actually got that in Italy, I think she was like 20 years old, 21 years old, and got in Italy for like $3,200. And that's another whole
Great
nother
gift.
fun. Well, it's a whole funny story because she walks in and they look at her like, and she's making good money. Yeah, she's always been a hustler. But they look at this little kid going, you can't afford this, $3,500 watch. So she pulls out a bag, slaps down cash. And she's walking around Italy, pouring down rain with this Breitling in a ripping bag. It was all wet. And oh my God, it was funny. All because I saw a friend of my sister's in Washington State. He had a fake one that he'd got in Japan. I just loved the watch. And what I liked with the Breitling too is everybody, Rolex, no one really knew what a Breitling was. I liked that because I didn't wear it to go, oh, look what I'm wearing. I bought that she bought it. I bought another one, but for me, I liked it for myself. It just happened to be an expensive watch. I still have it. It's sitting in a cabinet, 27 years later.
I love that. Give it to your son one day. And
Yeah,
he should know the importance of it, right? So
that's exactly what I'm doing. And it's doubled in value. It's worth twice what you paid for it now.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to share with anyone before we wrap up here? Or I think we covered a lot of bases today. Anything else you want to share maybe?
No, I mean, like I said, it's a business I was meant to be in. The universe just said, hey, read this ad, I guess. Because getting out of the Navy, I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't going back to school. LA Fitness wasn't going to cut it. So the universe just put me in the industry. And it's ironic that my first funding manager in 93, Lucy Werner, I'll never forget. She said, welcome to the mortgage business. Now get out. She's all, it will suck you in. I'm like, what are you talking about? 33 years later, here I am.
That's a great line by Lucy.
Oh, it was funny as heck. Funny as heck. I wouldn't do anything else.
That's amazing. Well, again, I want to thank you. This has been amazing. Love chatting with you. We could do it for hours. Love hanging out with you. I think that you, as a father, is someone that I look up to. Love your relationship with your son. Love your relationship with your agents. But you're just genuine, like you said before, and you're someone that I learn a lot from. Appreciate you joining me on the Most Mindset, as we mentioned. I know that you feel valued here because you are very valued, and you're a real inspiration to everyone on the team. And just so glad that you're a part of our lives. Thank you.
Me too. I'm glad I said yes.
Have a great day. Thanks, Aaron.
Have a good weekend.